Hey guys, it's Luke again, manager from the store St. Francis and local frothing surf rat, here for the next episode in our wetsuit series. So guys, now we're going to run through the different thicknesses of wetsuits and which area you'd be using these wetsuits in. So obviously South Africa quite diverse. We've got the cold Atlantic on the west and we've got the warm Indian on the east, with the coastline hugging right around through all. So to begin with, let's start with the thinnest type of wetsuit that we get, which is your 2mm wetsuit. So when wetsuits talk about millage, it's in terms of thickness, it's always in millimeters. And what that means is the neoprene or the foam rubber is 2 millimeters thick. For a spring suit, it's generally 2 millimeters thick throughout, which is a nice flexible wetsuit. And the rough temperature range for this would be, say, anything from south of Durban going all the way up the east coast. So you're looking at a temperature range of about 19 to 23 degrees Celsius. Generally suits that are 2mm thick, because it's made for warmer water, you won't include the fleece lining interior. There might not necessarily be internal taping, just because that would be an overkill in terms of insulation. Moving on from there, we'll then move to 3.2, which for our range is the golden standard. And a 3.2 wetsuit, as stated, would be anything between 16 and 18 degrees. But depends on what type of surfer you're on, what kind of conditions you're surfing. If you're surfing very windy conditions in very crowded lineups, a 3.2 would work, but you might want to invest in a 4.3, which we'll get to soon, just due to the fact that you're not going to be as mobile, not as active, waiting in crowded lineups for those waves and get quite exposed to wind chill. But how the millimetered structure works when it comes to full suit wetsuits, say whether that be a 4.3 or a 3.2, the thinnest part of the wetsuit is always going to be where you need the most flex and the least warmth. So because while you're paddling surfing, your muscles are basically generating heat for you, so your arms aren't getting too cold. They can fatigue easily in thick rubber. So a 3.2 will always be 2 millimeters across the shoulders, down the arms, where the most flex is needed, and then the thicker part of the wetsuit, which would be 3mm on this guy, running down the torso and down the legs, where your muscles are strong enough to compensate for that thickness, and also where you need the most warmth. Moving on to 4.3, exactly the same concept. Just obviously you got 3 millimeters running across your shoulders and arms, and then 4 millimeters running down your torso and then down your legs. Okay, so the temperature range for a 4.3 would be roughly 13 to 15 degrees Celsius. Then moving on, you lose a lot of heat through your head. So this is also a standard 4.3, 3 millimeters down the shoulders and arms, 4 millimeters down the torso into the legs. But because it's got a built-in hood, I forget the exact figure, but you lose something close to, if not over and above, 30% of your body heat through your head. By including a hood, that boosts it into a much colder category of water. So for this guy, you're looking at anything from 11 to 13 degrees. All right guys, now moving on to our warmest wetsuit, i.e. made for the coldest temperature wetsuit. This is a 5.4 hooded wetsuit. So same principle, obviously 4mm across shoulders and arms where you need the most mobility, and 5mm down the torso and legs. This would accommodate a temperature range of, if not lower than 7 to 9 degrees Celsius. All right guys, so now that we've run through the different thicknesses of wetsuits, just a very rough guide as to which areas in South Africa along our very diverse coastline you might be needing these wetsuits. So firstly, as mentioned, we had the 2mm spring suits. These do come in long leg options as well. This is even perfect for, say, Eastern Cape summer. So anything from, like I mentioned, 19 degrees to 23 degrees. But you'll probably be commonly using these on the East Coast and down the South Coast to about East London year round, and Durban pretty much all year. Then moving on to a 3.2, as a rough rule, you could say that a 3.2 wetsuit is perfectly suited for Mossel Bay, running all the way through to East London, perfect for our range being right in the middle. In winter, depending on the wind chill, you might want to invest in a 4.3 wetsuit, but should you choose one wetsuit for the Eastern Cape, 3.2 is definitely going to be your go-to. Then 4.3 wetsuit, we are looking at a geographical range of roughly Mossel Bay running down to Cape Town. Does survive most temperatures, like I say, from about 13 to 15 degrees Celsius. So that's a nice versatile one for Western Cape, even on a summer running around the West Coast a little bit. Then as soon as you put on a hood, that boosts that temperature range right down, so you can then withstand 10 to 12 degree water. So this is more kind of going Cape Townian winters in the midst of a cold front, and hugging along the West Coast, going for those Elands Bay surf missions as well. Then lastly, for those that get easily cold, For those that are going to be packed in crowded lineups up the West Coast, we've got the 5-4, and that, like I mentioned before, is our women's range, and sister wetsuits here in South Africa.